Thank you very much for this opportunity. Muchas gracias por esta oportunidad. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Please hang on to what happens to you as you hear those words, particularly if you don't speak Spanish, as language plays an important role in this brief presentation. In light of the chosen field, the chosen title, Fast and Curious, just a disclaimer. I used to be fast, and while I remain curious, I'm actually furious, and I hope you'll join me in that. I see as one of the fundamental responsibilities of a social science, like counseling psychology, of righting wrongs in our societies. I, together with many other scientists, consider that there is not such a thing as science that is value-free nor value-neutral. As scientists, we might be unaware of our values, as we might be unaware of our implicit biases, but that is not an excuse. Social sciences, including counseling psychology, are about being value-informed and, perhaps most importantly, value-grounded. Why would all this matter in this presentation? No research program is devoid of values. And every research agenda is driven by values that a researcher ought to make explicit. So the values that inform the research collective I facilitate are social justice and distributive justice. A partnering agenda that is affirmative and emancipatory, not simply an empowering one. In the words of Paulo Freire and Ignacio Martín Baró, it's about problematizing, an impossible word to pronounce. Problematizing the givens, it is those givens that perpetuate the problem in our midst. So what does this research collective I work with concerns itself with? What are the wrongs that we're trying to right? Start with the first one, Ana Romero Morales, who I played tribute to, her interest in mixed status siblings that impact immigration status on the sibling relationship. Kelly Whalen, a project titled Vida, a Latina adolescent and young adult suicide prevention project, and a shout out to Calm, who's partnering with us on this project. Gina Vanega Martinez, facilitated factors to treatment engagement of individuals in a current outpatient integrated treatment program. And there, a shout out to Sanctuary, who's partnering with us. Josh Schultzer, who is exploring the effects of an after-school music program on underserved children. And a shout out to started local, now in 12 different states program, after-school music program, Notes for Notes, housed at the east side and the west side of Boys and Girls Club. And last but not least, Mercedes Fernandez Oromendia, who is engaged in an international research project, joining forces with people in Argentina, Guatemala, and the United States, studying the personal style of supervisors to understand better their ability to be aware about the values they're actually conveying to their supervisees. Now, you may say, well, what does a research collective does beyond that? And meanwhile, we publish books. And we got 2 books just out 2017, this one, which is out there, and then there's this one too, and then there's this one too. Anyway, but the reason I want to share that with you is because the focus of these books are actually about helping practitioners. They're written with practitioners to help make the world a better world. And now, the topic of today, very briefly about a research project we're engaged in that concerns the mental health care access and utilization of public services by Mexican Americans in the United States who meet criteria for poverty, meaning they're poor or near poor. Most importantly, we use a qualitative design where we listen and we learn from our participants. That's the purpose of the study. And very briefly, the framework that we use for this study is a social justice one, and in a socially just world, everybody should have potential access, while realized access should be determined by need rather than social structural characteristics. And that's a wish. The reality is that 1 in 5 adults actually who are diagnosed with a mental, so in the United States currently, 1 out of 5 adults are diagnosed with a mental disorder. Only 1/3 of those people access service. But when you include a demographic variable, a social construct, such as ethnicity, it drops down to 1/5. Moreover, the treatment that they receive is of inferior quality. When we add another dimension like immigrant, and that's a properly documented immigrant, it drops down to 1 in 10, and that's after controlling for the immigrant effect that many people who immigrate tend to be in better mental health. Now, when we add not properly documented, the ratio of access and utilization among people who are actually diagnosed drops down to 1 in 100. So a very serious issue based on social structure characteristics. And then there's poverty. And unfortunately, among the Latino communities, poverty is highly and overrepresented, another injustice. So what are the findings? These are the key words that the clients share with us, and we construct this taxonomy to present it to you. 2 words in Spanish, basically meaning impeding factors and facilitative factors. What are the words that they share with us? How slow the system is that turns into, oh my goodness, being cold. And then barriers. Delays, feeling unwelcome. Somebody made up a word, one of our participants, malvenido. Resistance, a system that provides no answers, disillusionment and ambivalence. Similarly, waiting lists are tremendous deterrent to access and utilization. The intake personnel that is different than the provider, so they had to tell their story yet again. The language ability of the providers who don't speak the same language, treatment intensity and treatment relevance, crucial issues here. The level of training in the provider, the least equipped are providing service to the most ill, unfortunately, currently. The level of preparation of the consumer, and so on and so forth. I want to get to the positive aspects of the findings. These are people who actually have access service and utilize services and successfully utilize it, and this is what they highlight. The warmth provided by somebody who cared, somebody who was receptive, somebody who could tell and was aware and insightful about the needs of the people seeking services, who was responsive, who cared, who said, convey to them that you and I matter. They showed interest, they made time, or they had time or made time, they were real, and most important, they were welcoming, unlike the prior term. They used connection as part of resonating with the perceived needs, and they used their authority in emancipatory and affirmative ways. They conveyed trust, and ultimately clients felt they could actually finally unburden themselves. In short, the access and utilization, we need to understand as care seeking as a process of follow-ups, and we have to come back to it over and over. Now, when we have a client in front of us, the issue is, how is this going to stick? We heard motivation before, we heard other constructs before. How are we going to make sure that this time sticks? So the staffing at first contact matters. The person speaks the language, the reception area, does it represent me? Is there something that I can relate to culturally as a symbol of being at home? And then be very careful about the forms, issues of language competency, and just run ahead a little bit here. The issues of confianza being very important too. Stigma, interesting enough, people who actually use services still experience stigma, and in spite of that, they overcome those barriers. And I'm going to jump ahead. The last message here. The main finding in our study is that access and utilization is a relational enterprise, meaning that people need to feel that the other person cares and cares enough for them to come back. And therefore, one wonderful practitioner, as conveyed through one of our participants, said, you know, she kept asking me, ask yourself when you are depressed, would you be better off staying in bed or actually getting out and looking for help? And if the answer is getting out and looking for help, I'm here to help you. You matter to me, I care about you, I'll be here for you. And the fact that that person went out of her way empowered her to help her daughter, who herself also was diagnosed with depression, to actually seek service. So, last message, the bottom line is in honor of Cesar Chavez, sí se puede, yes we can, and most important, la cultura cura, culture heals. And thank you very much.